Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Excellent, that's good. Thanks for coming out in the rain. It's nice to see a different part of the campus. I didn't even realize this place existed. Shall we start now, as we do every time, with our my PSLT colleague introductions? Chris, you've got the mic.
Am I on?
You don't shout when he's on.
I don't need a mic.
Just go.
Hi, I'm Chris Professor. I'm the University Librarian.
Hi.
Stand up and turn around so we can see you.
Well, you want to stand up?
Simon Oliver. I'm the Head of Service Integration and Management in IT Services here on behalf of Malcolm Whitehouse.
Afternoon, I'm Diana Hampson, Director of Estates and Facilities.
Afternoon, Mark Wilson, Secretariat and Governance.
Afternoon, Wayne Keesing, Interim Director of Faculty Operations in Humanities.
Hi, Steve Dorsey, Director of Finance for the University.
Hi, I'm Karen Heaton, I'm the Director of HR.
Good afternoon, I'm Simon Merry, West Director for the Student Experience.
Hello, I'm Sally Sykes. I'm Director of Communications and Marketing.
Hello, Andrew Walsh, Director of Research and Business Engagement.
Hi, I'm Sinead Hesp, I'm Director of Legal Affairs and Board Secretariat.
Hi, I'm Rachel Brealey, I'm Director of Operations for FSE.
Good afternoon, I'm Julian Scombe, I'm the Director of Social Responsibility.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate White, I'm the Director of Development and Alumni Relations.
And finally, hello, I'm David Barker, Director of Compliance and Risk.
Great, thank you very much, colleagues.
Can I just say, sorry, I'm actually a bit late, I do apologise, but I'm here on behalf of Vicky Goddard as well. My name is Sally Jet Conway, and I'm the Department of Marketing Institute in Biology, Medicine and Health.
Fantastic, thank you, Sally. There will come a time where we'll turn the tables on you and ask PSLT colleagues up and you'll name PSLT. Okay, that'll be the new year. So this is the second of the two open meetings that we're holding in June. As you know, we repeat them to try and give at different times and different days, to try and give all colleagues the opportunity who want to come along and be here to be here. So this is the second one. Last week we were in a slightly bigger room than this. I think it's probably twice the size of this. But it was really quite nice and intimate, actually. It was quite a change from the very big lecture theatres in University Place. And I felt that we had more of a dialogue as a result of that. So I hope we'll achieve the same today. Come on around, the seats this side. So what I want to do before I open it up for discussion, is to, I want to thank you, but I'll come back to that. I want to talk a bit about values. I want to talk a little bit about our people and our values, one of the 7 themes in our new strategic plan. I want to talk a little bit about the staff survey. Unfortunately, for reasons beyond our control, we had hoped to have the full detailed analysis available from Capita by now, which we would have shared with you and we could have talked about it today. That's just not been possible. So we'll have some headline figures to talk about, but you will see the detailed results in due course. And then what I hope we'll be able to do is spend most of the time talking about issues that are of interest to you in the remaining time. And today we have got Slido as usual, but we won't start with Slido. Feedback from previous sessions suggested we should have a discussion in the room first, and then if there's a bit of a lull, we'll move on to Slido. But anybody who asks a question on Slido, if we don't answer it on the day today, we will answer it for you. Okay? So let me go back to the beginning. Would you believe it? It's come not far off a year since I arrived. Where the hell has that time gone? It's flown by. I've really enjoyed it. I've felt that I've been made very welcome here, and that's wonderful. I'm very grateful for that. I've visited more than 30 teams across the university so far, and I've learned a great deal as a result. We'll have had 6 open meetings after this one today. More than 1,300 colleagues have attended the meetings in person. 720 have engaged with us online. So welcome if you're watching us online again today. And the feedback has been really positive. There's been lots of constructive ideas about how we can improve them, and we've taken those on board. So in a smaller room like this is helping. I definitely don't want these to become stale. So we will have ideas about how we might want to freshen it up next year, but we want your ideas as well. What works for you? Does this type of event work? Should we have this plus others, or different ways of doing it? You know, please do share your thoughts with us. And you know, my commitment to you at the beginning of the year continues. You know, a big proportion of my time and of senior leaders' time is being devoted to engaging and communicating with colleagues right across this university. It's vital to how we do things in the university. You're all aware of the values consultation engagement exercise that's ongoing at the moment. I am going to embarrass you now by asking you to put up your hand if you have clicked on the link and shared your story with us. Yeah, not bad, but not great. The values work is really important. You know, you told us through the consultation exercise that we're all clear about why we're here. We're all clear what we're trying to achieve on the whole. But you talked to us about how we do things. You're very concerned about how we do things, that we protect the things we do well, but that we change the things we don't do well. And for me, at the heart of that work is our values as a university. And you know, we've committed to re-establishing, re-identifying, however you want to describe it, our shared values in this university. Interestingly, Martin Schroeder, who's Dean of FSE, was mentioned at SLT this morning, the senior leadership team this morning, that he was on a panel with 3 ILP groups yesterday. And like all self-respecting academics, he's a bit skeptical about values and what they mean and stuff. He was inspired by the ILP sessions, absolutely inspired by them, and shared that with SLT yesterday. And I think that's the power of values. The power, not just of values, but of identifying our shared values. So that's the first step, is to identifying them. The second step, and this is a commitment we've made, is to embed those values in how we do everything. So this is really important for the future. If you don't engage with it now, well, you should be engaging with it. Unless anybody can tell me a reason why you think you shouldn't. You really have an opportunity to make a difference to how we set our values in this university. So we will re-send the link to you to make it as easy as possible. But will you commit to clicking on that link and sharing your story with us? I'm seeing a few nods. Okay, thank you. So, our people, our values. Well, you've seen this before. I hope it's becoming familiar now. But our people, our values is one of the 7 themes of our new strategic plan, and it sits at the heart of everything that we do. And it's about everything that surrounds how we do things. So it's going to be about people, it's about systems, it's about processes, it's about well-being, it's about environment. And how we decide what we do through this theme is going to be crucial for at least the next 5 years of our plan. The theme itself has 7 sub-themes, at least that's what we're calling them so far. Our university values, I've already had a go at you about that. That's the beginning. The next thing is about great people doing great things, and this is something you'll hear more about in the coming months. This is about facilitating professional staff, academic staff, all of us, facilitating us in a way that helps us to be the best that we can possibly be in this university. It's about organizational things, it's about process things, it's about system things, it's about efficiency, it's about effectiveness, it's all of those things. But it has a very powerful aim and ambition, and that's about facilitating great people to do great things in our great university. The third theme is on engagement and communication, and it's an extension of what we're doing here. It's about ensuring that colleagues right across this university, wherever they are, having an opportunity to engage with each other, making sure that leaders engage with each other, ensuring that we develop communities of practice to share best practice across this university. It's probably a feature of the scale of the university, but there's an awful lot of good stuff that goes on, but it seems to me there is so much more that we need to facilitate to enable colleagues to engage and learn from each other across our university. So engagement and communication will help with that. Financial sustainability, I hope, is self-evident. The university has been here for a very long time, and our responsibility as stewards of this university is to ensure it's here for a long time to come as well. So we have an obligation to ensure that everything we do ensures that we do it in a financially sustainable way. People in OD, you would expect to see this, wouldn't you? But this is about well-being, it's about development opportunities, it's about helping colleagues to be the best they can be in this university. The SLD team and other colleagues have been doing great things in this area. ILP, the Leadership Management Programme, are really fantastic opportunities. And actually I should make a shout out for colleagues who have an opportunity to join the next ILP, Peter, in the autumn, isn't that right? It starts. If you have an opportunity to join it, if you haven't already signed up for it, please do, or talk to your manager about it. Technology, estates and environmental sustainability is a category that does what it says. It's about bringing together our technology plans, our estate plans, and developing them in an environmentally sustainable way for our university. And we could talk maybe a bit about the environment if you want to. Today it's very topical. And finally, digital innovation, which is, in terms of the work that we're doing, it's very much about enabling our business of the activity, business of the university, and making the most of technology advancements. Thinking about AI, thinking about other ways in which technology can support the work that we do in the university. And this is an area where sometimes there's a conversation about, well, does technology mean that my job will disappear? And the answer is in some cases yes. But technology surprisingly creates new job opportunities as well. And you've probably heard me say this before, but I'd like us to move away from thinking about jobs to thinking about people and how we develop people and ensure that they're ready for the new opportunities that come along in time. So the Our People, Our Values theme, this work is part of the wider strategic plan. The strategic plan is a 5-year plan, so you'll see more detailed information about how we're going to pursue these sub-themes over the coming 3 to 5 years. Okay, so let's move to the staff survey. Hopefully you've seen the results, the high-level results that are available online. Thinking about this from a PS perspective, response rate, university level was good. No, sorry, I'm starting with the university headlines, not PS. But the university response rate slightly lower than last time, but it's still very good at 69%. 92% say the university is a good place to work. That's an incredible score by any sector measure. Let's not say that there are lots of frustrations and issues and concerns, and we'll see more of those as we go through the detail. But essentially, overall, colleagues feel very proud to work at this university. And 81% feel valued, which is quite a good score, actually. But it still means that 1 of 5 don't feel valued. So there is work to be done there. And you'll see that the 3 areas that SLT is going to take a closer overview of in response to the survey, particularly around SLT itself, how it communicates, how it engages with colleagues around the university. Work around a positive work environment where our people, our values will play an important role. And unfortunately, managing change, or as I say, unfortunately, this does tend to repeat in staff surveys, but that's not to say that there isn't so much more we can and should be doing to manage change more effectively in our university. And we're making governance changes and team changes to facilitate the way in which we undertake change in the university in future. And you'll hear more about that in due course. Now, so in PS, across PS, the results tend to be more positive in PS than the university as a whole. Job security is pretty good. Work-life balance, 81%. It's pretty good, but it would be interesting to get some of your views back on these results. Little over half feel that they've seen some positive changes in the last 12 months. Is that good or not good, or in between? I think it seems that fewer staff have been involved in discussions about the survey. And I think that's an issue for us because, and we felt it this time round, the survey will move from being every 2 years to being every 3 years. And I think that's the right thing to do strategically. But there was a sense that, well, did anything happen from the previous survey? Is there any point in completing it again if I don't feel that anything changed the last time round? And actually quite a lot was done. I'm not sure we were very good about communicating that, though, and helping colleagues feel that and understand what had been done in response to the previous survey. This time round, with a 3-year window, we will more actively monitor our action plans in response to the survey. And we're also committed to undertaking interim pulse surveys of staff on a more focused basis across the university is a more meaningful way of engaging with each other anyway, rather than simply relying on a major exercise once every 3 years. Some of the differences between this time and last time, Jonathan and the team was very keen for me to point out that the biggest climber in the staff survey was staff who'd taken part in some sort of work-related learning or development, which was a fantastic leap from 63% to 80%. That's fantastic, and we need to keep that. We need to keep that momentum and keep it going, and not just feel that because we've done it once, that's great. We don't need to think about it for another 10 years. Job security has dropped. That's perhaps not surprising, given some of the change projects that are underway. We might want to talk about that. And the SLT result dropped as well. And we can debate why that has happened and what we should be doing to improve it. Here are 3 that are of some concern. PDRs, only 72% of staff in professional services had a PDR. I'm really disappointed in that figure. I just don't understand it either. A PDR is there for both the individual and the line manager or the reviewer. It's to help both parties. And if we're not doing them, we need to understand why we're not doing them. They're very important means of understanding one's individual career plans, development needs, what the university expects of each of us as individuals, setting our objectives for the coming year and years. If those conversations are not happening, then we really are missing something. So if you've not had a PDR and you wanted one, demand one. If you've not had a PDR and you don't want one, tell me why. I'd like to understand that. The PDRs, they're clunky. They could always be easier to use. Of course, that's true. But the whole point of having a conversation between you and your line manager is for both of you to come out of that conversation with a clear understanding about expectations of each of you, the university to you and you to the university. Harassment and bullying and discrimination percentages, whilst they, at face value appear low, they're not low if you think about them in terms of real numbers. They're far too high, and we need to redouble our efforts to address them. So some of the things we're going to be working on: building a greater sense of feeling valued, improvements in the way SLT engages and leads the institution, clear understandings of our values and goals. I think the new strategy will help with that. and excuse me, SLT and communication again. So we will share the detailed results when they're ready, and your managers have had time to have a look at them, and there will be action plans arising, and our commitment needs to be that we're not just going to develop action plans for the sake of doing them and then leave them for 3 years. We should only put into an action plan what we're prepared to do something about, and then make sure it's happened. And Jane is our champion in professional services. Hi Jane, stick your hand up over there, who's leading for us on staff surveys. So if you've got any questions or ideas, please talk to Jane. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now and hand the floor back to you. What would you like to talk about? Do you have any questions on what you've heard so far? Do you have any questions for PS colleagues? Do you want to know when the sun's going to shine? I bloody do. And I'm Irish. Don't be shy. If you've got a question, we are going to give you a mic. Whether you want a mic or not, you're going to get a mic. Tell us who you are as well, please. Come on, don't be shy. Good man.
Hi, I'm Ian Bradley from Directorate for Student Experience. It's probably a bit of a few observations to start with, and then it does lead into a question on it. So you mentioned our people is a key focus, which is great. Great people doing great things, people in organisational development. 92% of staff seem to want to work here, which again is great. But I think, I haven't got the exact stat, but about 50% think change is managed well, or 50% think change isn't managed well. I know we've got the Leading Change Development Programme and others, but when we have structural change, we seem to have lots of good people leave us. And we then seem to end up replacing people over time. So we don't ever seem, from what I've seen, to make the sort of numeric changes or the numeric savings that we're expecting to see. But in the meantime, good people have left. And we know that more change is coming. You know, the stat that 1/3 of staff don't feel, 1/3 of PS staff don't feel they've got good job security is obviously a challenge to that, and that's a 10% drop, as you said, from the last survey. So across the PS, can we give staff more job, I was going to say job security, but as you rightly say, it's not about the job, it's about people security. You know, can we use ERVS in a voluntary sense, as opposed to at the moment we use it as a threat that hangs over people, that if you don't take ERVS, you might get voluntary severance. Sorry, you might get compulsory severance. And it just seems we're such a large organisation. I think from a PS point of view, we've got a really flexible group of staff that surely over time with natural wastage, we can manage this rather than good staff leaving, and we end up replacing those staff at the end of the day. And I think our productivity, the person security would be much greater if we could find a much flexible way. And I think we'd then see how the university manages change will be much more positively received, because ultimately I think it's about people's life security. Yeah, we may have to move offices, we may end up doing different roles, but I think people are big enough and flexible enough for that. But it's that job thing that seems to hang over when you've got to restructure.
I agree with everything you said. Let's just put that back out online. So what we're doing is, well, the first thing I want to say is we're getting a bit fixated about change. I attended Andrew Barker's risk and compliance team meeting this morning, and he put up a chart of what they look like. David Barker. I keep calling him Andrew Barker. David, sorry. Yeah, that's handy, isn't it? That could be handy. Sorry, David. He put up a chart of what their organisational team looked like in 2014 and what it looks like today, and it's very different. So change happens all the time. Change happens all the time. Yes, we are sort of in unprecedented times if you take the worst potential outcomes of Augur and other funding issues in the sector, although the worst never comes to pass, actually. But you could think about truly unprecedented times. So we will continue to change, actually. And people recognising that, as you say, Ian, is right. People do. What we're not good at is being honest with people about that sometimes. We talk about job security or in contexts where, you know, you look to any other sector, there's no such thing as job security. But on the other hand, just because somebody doesn't say you're guaranteed a job doesn't mean your job's immediately a threat tomorrow. There are more issues around the job you do in 5 years' time if technology changes. But our responsibility as a university then is to help colleagues to prepare their own skills, develop their own skills so that they're ready for the new job opportunities that come along in 5 years' time. And what I find in meeting colleagues around this university is, you know, there are colleagues who've been here 30 years. And you think, other people might think, oh my God, I couldn't imagine doing the same job for 30 years. But the reality is they don't do the same job for 30 years. Everybody changes their role to some extent. 5, 6, 7, 10 years, actually. And that's the great opportunity in a big university like this. There are new opportunities that come along all the time. And our change program should make the most of those opportunities as well. So I could keep going on about this because this is, I think, at the heart of how we deal with change in the university. But I'll say some quick things. We've changed the governance to streamline the governance. We're realigning the PMO and how we manage change procedurally. You'll see all that coming in the new year. But what I think we're going to do that's going to make a really big difference is that we'll talk to colleagues about it more openly than we've done in the past. Now, obviously, there are points where there has to be confidentiality, but as soon as we can, we will share information much more openly than maybe we've been able to in the past. We will allow sufficient time for change to happen properly, recognizing people's reaction to change. So they go through the cycle of hearing about it, coming to terms with it, identifying what an opportunity there might be as opposed to the threat, and before we implement the change. So I don't think this is very complicated, but it requires us to have more patience, to plan change over a longer period of time, to put more resource into the project itself. So that if we're asking colleagues to participate in a change project, we're not asking them to do the day job at the same time. And as a consequence, the overall program we're looking at is 3 to 5 years long. It's not a one-year project. And it's also not about, let's just change everything over the next 3 years. It's about recognizing that things do change and making the most of them. It's about thinking in a way that we're, like all high-performing institutions think, how can we do things better? We should be thinking about that all the time, and it's exploiting those opportunities. Does that address at least some of the points that you made in?
It addresses some. I don't think it addresses the way in which we use policy of the RBS and
okay. Yeah. So the thing about the voluntary scheme is that the risk you run with a voluntary, if it's simply a voluntary scheme, is that you lose your best people. Because what happens? The people who feel that they're most marketable think, well, I'll take that year's pay and I'll go and get another job down the road. And the people who don't feel marketable, either because they're not or because they don't have the confidence in themselves, won't. So that type of voluntary scheme is not going to deliver the sort of change that we need. On the other hand, I would hope that we won't ever get to the place that other sectors are in now, most of the private sector, where if they want to undertake a change program, they'll just do a compulsory scheme and you get statutory paying. Good luck to you. We're a long way away from doing that. So it's got to be a mixture of both, I think, is the answer. Ian, if you know, for
at the present is we threaten the latter at the same time as offering the former. That just seems to put people under unnecessary pressure.
okay, well, is there an alternative? Because to me, doing the two together like that is more honest and upfront, and it's saying, look, there is a voluntary scheme. We'd like you to take it. But if you refuse to take it, we have to make this change, and you will end up having to go on much worse terms. So I'm more than happy to think if you think there's an alternative, but Karen and I would say this is the way that gets the right balance of offering somebody generous departure terms, without immediately going to very, very statutory, compulsory terms. If anybody else has any ideas on that, feed them back to me. Okay, what else should we talk about? Come on. How's the cricket going? Does anyone know? Hmm? Oh God, is it that bad?
I think I'd talk about a suggestion, Patrick, pace.
Oh, Tony, tell us here.
Yeah, I'd talk about pace. One of my senses is that I used to work for insurance for 10 years, for a law firm for 18 years, for RBS for a year. And it seems to me that it's probably going to take a full 3 years before I get some idea of how this organisation operates. But there is a pace issue where if we don't make, for example, technological changes, we aren't going to be the university we want to be, or indeed we are. We're not going to hold that mantle. And the way that we all feel about coming to work and using information, using IT, using the facilities, the new buildings we've got, we're not going to get that benefit. We're not going to feel good about that sort of thing unless we hit the pace and we do implement changes and we do take some risks and get those changes made quicker and get behind it so that we feel better about coming to work, frankly, whatever job we do. You know, it's just a sense for me that some of it is just in the industries I've worked in, which I know are not the same, but there is a sense that people have woken up to the idea that it's not going to be nice, some of it. It just isn't going to be nice. But there is a point at which if you can see incremental progress and your room feels a bit better and your computer feels a bit better and stuff works, you do feel it. You feel better. And it's not just an IT thing. It's the whole package. It's the whole package. Some thoughts.
What do others think about that? I've seen lots of nodding heads. It's that kind of paradox in the survey, isn't it? Where overall, we're all proud to work here. We're all proud to come to work. But then there's a whole long list of things that drive us mad. And you've heard me say it before. This place feels like, and it is a genuinely world-leading university. But sometimes it feels like that in spite of us. And you think, well, the potential is enormous. How can we make the most of the potential? And I kind of feel in some ways that universities and the university sector more generally hasn't grasped the transformational opportunities that other sectors have. Now, you might say, because universities haven't changed, it's that tradition that they bring through, that longevity, that you can attribute to the success of universities. And I think that is certainly true. But it's really interesting to try and think 20 years hence. What are our universities going to look like in 20 years' time? I struggle to even think now what my lads will think in 8 years' time, what they will expect when they go to university. I think they will feel, unless we move more quickly than we're moving now, they will feel that they've come to quite an antiquated place, actually. And it's not like we'll fail as a result. In a way, that's the challenge. There isn't a particular true burning platform. But on the other hand, you think of the opportunities to develop higher education over the next 10 to 20 years, they're enormous, phenomenal. Are we positioning ourselves to make the most of those opportunities? And I think on the whole, we're probably not. We can point to things like MECD, Rachel's and Diana's project, and it's bloody amazing, amazing. But in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, that's what makes it exciting, I think, to come to work. But we have to work together to increase the pace of what we're doing, and we have to take responsibility for it as well. It won't all come from SLT. Absolutely won't. It'll come from creating an environment, a positive environment where people feel this is a really good place that encourages innovation, encourages a bit of risk-taking, isn't fearful of making a mistake, but is prepared to change and do things differently.
Hello.
If you're going to ask me if you're going to ask me if I finished your book, I'm going to have to be really honest, because I said I'll be honest. I haven't finished it, but I've started it.
Good work.
That's honesty.
Glad to hear it. I'll keep monitoring progress. So I don't. Is that working? No.
Yes. No, it's working. It's working. Yeah, it's working.
I've got a report calling voice, so I won't worry.
Tell everyone who you are.
Oh. All right. So I'm Emily. I'm the head of strategic planning for the Faculty of Humanities. We were at the launch of the Leading Change Development Programme last week. I was there with some of my team, and one of my team really astutely pointed out that one of the slides had a list of legacy projects from the last strategic plan, of which there were about 7. This was in one area, which I won't name, and then about kind of 5 to 7 new projects. And my question, I think, and it links to the narrative about what do we stop doing, is do you think we fail fast enough when we're because some of these seem to have very similar outcomes, some of them we'd never heard of. Do you think that when we scope and evaluate what we're doing to try and fundamentally change things, that we adapt and that we go, actually, that's not working, stop it, do something else?
No, we don't. I mean, all my colleagues in the front 2 rows are all nodding away with you. We don't fail quickly enough, and we start new things all of the time, and we're about to start a whole new set of things with the new strategy. But the Programme Management Board last week was looking at the list of legacy projects, thinking about which ones are truly critical to the new strategy, and how would they fit with the new initiatives that will come from the new strategy. It seems to, every time you talk about stopping doing things, people throw their hands up and, oh, we've tried that before, and failed to think of anything to stop doing. Another way is to force ourselves not to start things that we haven't designed and planned properly. And if we do, I think if we do that, then we won't set really high or impossible expectations of ourselves of some of the projects that we've been running so far. You know, we might say, you know, if we do something that I don't want to pick on any particular project, but just if we had, you could imagine in the past we might have said, well, you know what, we're going to do that for next academic year. That conversation has happened quite a lot in the past. And nobody's thought through what does it take to have it done for the next academic year. Is the time realistic? Do we have the resources? Have we got the funding to put with it? Have we planned it through? We're really committed to not doing that this time round. And I think that will address some of the issues about stopping things, because it will force us to do things over a longer period of time. I also think with the strategic plan, we will have things that are connected to each other in a way that they've not been done with previous projects. There's been lots of projects happening in parallel, and we've had to work really hard to make the cross connections work. Whereas if we'd planned them in an interdependent way, they might have been less effort. But anybody who's got ideas about stopping doing things, don't be shy about sharing them with us. Hi. Hello, Claire.
Hello, everybody. I'm Claire Brown. I'm Head of University Marketing. I think one of my observations since joining the University, Patrick, is that there's perhaps not as much management information as I might like to help inform some of the work that we do in the central communications and marketing team. But one of the other things that I would personally find really valuable, that might be a quick win, which is not about stopping doing things, but perhaps about being more focused and being clear about what we're all driving towards, would be if we could publish some of the unreserved minutes of the high-level meetings in the university, make them more widely available to colleagues. And I wonder if this is something the university is thinking about doing.
Where's Rachel?
Is
She's
that
got her head down. No, I'm not, well, yes is the short answer. We had a big discussion about engagement recently at the senior leadership team, and I think there are positive things we can do to improve transparency and sharing of information, and we're actively discussing publishing minutes of certain committees as a way of doing that. If we don't publish the minutes, what we will do is publish a synopsis, which, you know, is a bit more effort, but could have the same impact. So I think that will help. You know, on management information, where's Matt? I mean, we've got a project, a BIMI project underway, but and we're not. Simon, do you want to say something about the project? Good man.
Well, it's not so much the project, but I can talk a bit about the project.
Yeah.
One of the crucial things in terms of BIMI, point there, is we need to get. So there was a role that was advertised recently that we're still in the process of recruiting to, which is a head of BIMI for the university, which is about putting a framework in place for how we use our information, how we sort of have a hierarchy of data and information, and how we use it, how we access it, etc., etc. The BIMI project that Patrick's referring to there is more of a technology project that puts some technology in place to allow us to then mine that data and mine that information. I mean, really the point you were making, which I agree with, we need to be in a place where leaders and managers have access to a dashboard that shows them relevant information for their area, that allows us to make decisions on a more real-time basis. We're very retrospective. So if I look at my area, for instance, and think about things like applications, admissions, those sorts of things, as people nodding, you know, we spend a lot of time backwards mining data almost, rather than being able to just press a button and see the reports and so on that we need. So absolutely, that's where we need to get to. I think that post that Matt Atkin is trying to recruit to is key to that in terms of starting us on that journey.
I think MI is an area of potential, would be a constructive way of putting it in this university. Hi. Oh yeah. You're on a roll now, Emily. I'm Emily, and then this lady over here.
I think that is possibly the number one reason why we don't stop doing things, because we don't know what works. We try things and we don't have the evidence base to go, this is working, that's not working, stop doing that one.
Yeah, and just if we're on a whinge fest about this, the other thing that we do is we will try 3 different ways of doing the same thing in 3 different parts of the university at the same time. We rarely think about things in a truly institutional way. There's still a big issue around accountability and control in this university. If I'm going to be accountable, I've got to have control. Well, that's not the way it needs to be. You know, we can develop institutional solutions that help people deliver on their accountabilities. That's something we're going to be talking about around great people doing great things. Oh, Rachel, did you want to follow that up?
Just to add that point, Claire. Hello, Claire. About transparency as well from decision-making bodies. I noticed in the Humanities e-newsletter, they do like an overview of decisions that have been taken at their faculty leadership team, which I think is really helpful and good practice. So I think there is some good practice going on. It's just how can we make that wider spread, I think.
Not perhaps understanding, thank you, you know, what's working well because of MI, but also, you know, we make plans and we're implementing them, but the external environment changes, you know, drivers internally change, and I just think it would help us to be more focused and efficient. But anyway, absolutely. I know everybody will feel the same way. Thank you.
I think everyone's nodding along with you. Hello there.
Hello, it just links to the MIBI as a data analyst based in Matt's team in planning. So, and not to be purely defensive, but now that we have the tools that I think where we've maybe not been able to produce as much management information in the best way in the past is not having had the tools in place, and now we are moving to a culture where we will have that. I just wondered from a senior leadership point of view, Simon mentioned about some of the applications admissions data being a priority. If you had that sort of headline dashboard of things you need in place to make that decision, what you envisage that looking like, it might link to the new values, the new measures of success that we're going to have. I just wondered what that would look like in an ideal world for you, and how sort of the structure we have around MIBI currently could help to support that.
Yeah, well, okay, that's a really big question. I would, obviously it needs to support the objectives in the strategic plan. But I would be glad of having the basic MI in a consistent single version of the truth format for the whole university as things stand. So it seems to me student number planning is an interesting challenge here, actually. So I don't want a lot. I'd be happy with some of the basics. And this, don't be defensive in the slightest. This is not a criticism of planning at all. It's a reflection of just the way things have been done in the university in quite a highly devolved way. And I'm not necessarily being critical of that either. You know, what's happened in the past will have been right for the past. We're thinking about the future, aren't we? We're not backward looking, we want to be forward looking. And in a very competitive, very mobile, you know, market, if we think about just students, for example, we've got to be anticipating what's coming down the line. Not, as Simon is saying, backward looking on the data, what did it tell us about what's been happening in the past. We should be anticipating where the market's going in the future. You know, we rely on international student recruitment at the moment. Significantly, we rely on one market to a significant degree. You know, the government is quite intent on diluting that market if it can in the next X number of years. That market will change anyway as a home country develops its own capacity. It's already working on that. So we should be thinking about those things as leaders in our university. That's why we need to be thinking 10 years plus hence. Tony. Thank you.
Just to keep that going, I thought, so one of the concerns I have is that I feel that the university has a drag effect from legacy information, not just value. I'm sorry you plug my own challenges here, but there is a sense of the cost and the risk of information that we're all desperate to keep hold of because we think it almost defines us, or it's, you know, that is the thing that, and some of it is historical, some of it is, you know, really important stuff. But my sense is it costs, it's processing time, it's that bloody thing going round waiting for it to come back to you and all that stuff. We were wasting time and we haven't got the efficiency and the responsiveness. And there's a sense that we're looking at the wrong information and it's not telling us what we think. And the outcomes we're coming to aren't based on valid information. But again, same point I made before, yeah. I'm not from this industry from years and years and years, so I don't know all of it. But my sense is other industries have started coming to the idea that current and valid data, making value judgments, is much more useful than having tremendously historical data that you kind of create whatever you want from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And our challenge is because we haven't necessarily held the data in one place, we store it countless times in different places and locally, and people hold on to it because they don't trust what's available. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So much of what we do is based on culture, and of course, culture is simply the way we do things. Hello.
Hi, I'm Rachel from the Career Service. We've talked about change. Ian's raised something that I think a lot of us are feeling in DSE, just the way things are going about. And we had a lot of conversation, a lot of communication very early doors when the 8s and 9s were being looked at and things were being structurally changed. And we were told that 7s and 6s, etc., were going to be next. Yeah. And this was February, then it was midsummer, now it's late summer, now it's November. And now I'm being told by lots of different sources that it's going to be department reviews rather than 7s and 6s. Can we get some clarity on what's next and when, please? Because we're a bit confused.
So the project has been a live project for some time. And therefore, you know, when we looked at it late last year and looked at what we were doing, you know, we decided to pause and think about how we do the future stages to avoid some of the, you know, the unintended consequences of the earlier stages. Simon will say a little bit about what we're doing now, but this is again, isn't it, trying to get the right balance between rushing ahead with something and then having all sorts of unintended consequences of doing it, as opposed to stepping back and saying, we need to rethink how we do this. Maybe doing it by grade is not the right way of doing it. Maybe we should think about it more holistically. Maybe we should design the whole thing before we implement anything. These are the sort of things that I'm saying we will do differently in future. Now, for projects that are live and in flight, I'm afraid it will mean delays like this. But I'd rather have a delay. I'd rather not have the uncertainty, but I'd rather have that delay so that when we plan and engage and implement the next stages, we do it in the way we want to do change in the future. Don't know whether that's reassuring or not. Simon, is there anything you want to say to add to that?
Where's Rachel gone? Ah, there, right in front of me. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Patrick's kind of nailed the answer in a sense, Rachel. The early stages of that project, there was lots of feedback about the pace at which it was going and about the capacity to make such a large change effectively taking people with us and doing that to the sorts of time scales and sort of scale that we talked about. The other component of that, of course, is the interplay between the kind of organisational changes and SLP as well. So what Patrick's described there is some work that's been going on and still is just going on at the moment, just to take a lot of that feedback on board. So colleagues like Ian, wherever Ian's gone at the back there, who've already been through significant change at the early stage of that process, have been putting a lot of, giving a lot of feedback and giving some comments about how that went and about how actually things could be done better and differently and taking people with us and giving some consideration to the capacity to manage such a large amount of change all at once. So within the next sort of certainly month, we ought to be in a position where we've got some greater clarity and some certainty rather than being able to sort of say, well, yeah, it might be the autumn, it might be November, it might be whatever. We'd rather be in a position where we've got something that is a definitive plan that everybody's bought into, that we know we can resource, we know we can deliver, and then come and talk and communicate about that, rather than continuing to say, well, it might be this, and it might be that, and it might be the other. Okay.
So to ignore the November deadline at the moment and just business as usual?
Business as usual, absolutely. When we're at the point where we have something that has much more clarity about it, that's been tested with other colleagues, members of the leadership in faculties and DSE and other areas, tested to see, is this achievable? Tested in the context of all of these other change projects that Emily talked about. We've got lots and lots and lots of other things going on, and business as usual, and all these other things, and actually asking ourselves those really hard questions. Can we actually deliver all of these things at once? Those are the sorts of things we're challenging ourselves about at the moment and saying, well, can we actually do it, and what's realistic? And once we're clear on that, then we'll come talk to you a bit more. Okay?
And it would be great if we could adopt an approach where we do business as usual whilst we're planning change. And there's trust that when there's something to discuss and consult on or inform about, that will happen at the right time. That would be a good place to get us into, wouldn't it, for all of our projects? Yeah, absolutely. No, we're very, very conscious of that. Morale is really critical for everybody's well-being, and part of that is being more honest about the change, isn't it? Actually, with colleagues, there's nothing worse than not knowing. It seems to me. What have we not covered? You are? Of the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not just of you, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
But of the audience as well. It's a comment on league tables. Because we're often quite dismissive of league tables at Manchester. Because we're not in the top 10. Last week, the QS came out and UCL, for the first time in its history, overtook Cambridge. So things can really change. UCL is probably our closest comparator institution, would be my observation, in the UK. They're a few hundred students away from being the biggest single-site university in the country, which is one of our big strap lines. And Patrick, this one is slightly for you, but perhaps for comment as well. What is the current kind of tone in terms of developing our strategic thinking, given our increasing importance of international students and the reality that international league tables play in that recruitment, in terms of our ambition for league tables or otherwise?
Yeah, I forgot about Slido, didn't I? The league table thing's interesting. Our ambition in the previous strategy was to be in the top 25 in the world in the Times Higher world ranking. I think it was the THE World, the AWRU, the Shanghai Jiaotong. Yeah, we're going absolutely in the right direction. But there was an interesting debate with the strategy whether that should be in the new strategy or not. Now, interestingly, it will be in the new strategy, and I think that's a good thing. It may not be quite headline, but it's there. We're kind of ambivalent about league tables. You know, we like the ones that show us in a good light, and we hate the ones that bloody don't. So we like the AWRU because it focuses on the number of Nobel laureates in our research, doesn't it? We hate the Guardian. Not political comment, but we hate it because it's student measures, and you know, we're actively discussing at the moment our response to the Guardian. We've dropped 2 years in a row. I feel that we're in denial about it, if we're really honest with ourselves. So I think we should be much more ruthless about league tables, would be my answer to that. Can we go through some of these questions, seeing as colleagues went to the trouble of asking? So John, is MECD? Diana and Rachel are nodding. Yes, it's on schedule, and it will effectively replace this, that will be lost in North Campus. Yes, I think there's some stuff staying in the bag.
Better than the stuff that's on central and school space, because we've done a full brief that ensures that rooms are the right size for the type of activity we undertake. Where currently we have 50-person rooms that end up with 10 or 20 in all the time, we've done a lot of work to make sure that rooms are the right size, so we get much better efficiency in the way that we use the space. So we get, in some cases, a lot more of the small space that we need, and we're not in big rooms unnecessarily.
Having been around the site, this is just incredibly exciting. It's amazing. We're moving a whole university from the North Campus onto the main campus. It's so exciting, it really is. And there are tours, but is it hard to get on the tour? There are limits. Diana's just had a panic attack. We could have our next open meeting in
We
McD.
can't have the whole university on a tour, but there are limited. Thank you. There are limited tours. There's a day a week. If anybody has a really burning desire, we'll see what we can do. But it is very limited. Yeah. But of course we have to be off North Campus because we have committed to ID Manchester.
Yeah. And you've all heard about ID Manchester, haven't you? Seen the video? Again, another amazing initiative.
We are also putting together a virtual tour, so we'll walk around the building
great.
that people will be able to do online.
Yeah, lots of open plan working, really good collaborative working space. I love this one. There's a rush to spend money left in budgets. Steve, do you want to comment on this?
I don't think I is Carly here? No, thank you very much. Did you?
Were you planting it, Carly?
Did you? I did actually. I had pre-warning to this one, I think. Anyway, this came out. Interesting enough, this was one of the feedback at the general Our Futures discussion, and it came out some of the World Cafe stuff. We've called it that. There was a strong feeling. In fact, I think some of my procurement team were talking about it. I like this idea, but there's the whole balance. I wouldn't necessarily say the whole lot goes in there. One is we're setting very tight budgets, and back to financial sustainability, we need to actually look through this. Equally, in our strategic plan, we're looking at carbon and the right measures of success here. This is going to be something that's come again from our own consultation. The whole sustainability, environmental sustainability of our site is something that's key to all our hearts, and it's something that comes out in social responsibility. So we should be budgeting it. Carbon offsetting itself isn't actually, I don't think we're great on carbon offsetting. It's about more reducing our footprint rather than just offsetting, because that actually is just trading. So I like the idea. I think it may incentivize things, but I'd probably not guarantee to give the whole lot across. So it's something, I think you thank you for raising it. It's a live issue which I'll think about and come back to. When I've thought about it, I'll let people know where we end up.
One way we could help, I mean, I think there's two separate issues there, but if we think about the carbon offsetting and carbon reduction, we could increase car parking charges, couldn't we, Diana?
We could do that, couldn't we?
Encourage more colleagues to use public transport, or invest some of that income in carbon reduction initiatives in the university. Rachel, we have issues which requires a laser, however, I won't read it out. You can all read it as well as I can. Karen, do you want to take this one?
I don't know what's behind that.
Okay.
I'd suggest that Rachel speaks to me about that.
Rachel, are you happy to do that? Karen will talk to you directly. Is that good? Thank you, because it's clearly an important question. Shirley, you feel you're not getting support for your well-being. That's worrying, isn't it? Do you want to pick that up with Karen as well, or yeah, is that okay? It was somebody else, wasn't it? Let's do that. Karen, you'll pick that up, yeah? There are more decreases than increases. Does this recently? I don't know if that is technically right. I'm not sure is the answer to that. Jane, where's Jane's gone, is she? I haven't done enough of the analysis to know. Is the university taking a step backwards recently? Well, I don't know if it's a step backwards. I do think I've felt coming in here as somebody new that some of the fallout from some initiatives like M2020 have been felt very keenly in parts of the university. And in that sense, I think that may have contributed to some of the reduced scores in the staff survey. Is it more than that? I don't really know yet. Overall, in the staff survey results, the results seem to be telling us that academic staff are more unhappy than PS staff are. PS seem to be relatively happy, quite happy, even if we were to be positive about it. I don't want to get too carried away. So no, I think, I don't know. Sean, do you have, if Sean's in the audience, we might have had this in offline. What do you think?
I wasn't here for the last staff survey,
Yeah.
so I don't know what the culture was like between then and now. But having a look at it, there was a lot of minor decreases of 1 to 3%, a significant amount, far more than there was of small positive increases. And I think along with the positive increase of people engaging in learning and development, I think there's a hidden narrative behind that people are looking to upskill because they're worried about their jobs. And so I was wondering, does that mean that the university is taking a step forwards, or does it feel like a small step backwards?
Yeah, I don't think it feels like a step backwards to me. I think we are at a moment in time. I do think the new vision, new strategy, the increasingly competitive world in which we're operating in, the potential changes in funding, you can see them as a threat or you can see them as an opportunity. My feeling is that the time, effort and attention that's going into the new strategy will put us into a really good place, actually, to really move forward. And putting our people and our values at the heart of that, to me, says everything about our commitment. You know, our commitment is to our people. Flexible working, Karen. Is that not an option at the moment? You know, I actually...
The flexi time, sorry. The flexi time, if that's what it refers to, the flexi time policy has very defined core hours.
Ah, is that what
so
it
if
is?
someone's on a formal flexi time
Okay.
arrangement, it's got core hours according to the procedure.
Well, I think we can look at this. It's always a challenge, isn't it, to balance flexibility with the needs of the business, the needs of the university. We've got to try and balance those two things. But one thing I've found here is that, on the one hand, an awful lot of decisions about these things are devolved to the lowest level possible in the university organisation. And that feels like a good thing to do, doesn't it? It should be more responsive. But what seems to be happening in practice then is that we're getting differential approaches across the university and we're not as consistent. And that's not fair either, actually. So we need to find somewhere in between the two. If we're going to be more consistent, then the risk is that you have something like a set of core hours that you can't deviate from. So it's very much on our agenda to look at this as part of the People in OD work stream. There we go. We got through them. Any other questions before we finish? We're actually 4 minutes over. No? Can I thank you all very much for your time today? I really appreciate you coming along, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care.